Sal, I wanted to ask you, though, about Miami. Yesterday, Adam Schefter reports that the Dolphins and the Steelers, interesting that it's that specific also, that it's not like, the Dolphins have been getting calls on Jonnu Smith. It's no, like these two teams are talking about this player, and here's why. He needs a contract that he wants after a breakout season. It's interesting from the Steelers' perspective, I guess. But we know they wanted another playmaker outside of DK Metcalf, and Arthur Smith has coached Jonnu Smith multiple times. So that would make sense. What do you think the Dolphins are doing with even being willing to move off of Smith, who just had a very good season? And the GM said 2 months ago, they're not going to have Jalen Ramsey on the roster. Now he still is, but I don't know, the writing's on the wall that he will either be cut or he will be traded at some point in time. There were other veterans who were let go this offseason. What do you think they're doing in Miami?
I really don't know, and it kind of goes back to the last couple months. I've kind of been wondering what they're doing because it feels like they're middling it. Where it feels like, okay, they want to win, but wait a minute, they don't want to win. Why is Tyreek Hill still on the team if they're trying to not win? But then again, they have still Chris Grier and Mike McDaniel. They're in their positions. They're going to try and win. Chris Grier's been there a long time now. When was Chris Grier hired? 2016 maybe?
Oh, man, it's been
I'm going to guess 2016. I'm going to guess. You tell me. I think 2016.
2016? I'm going to look right now. He also, has he hired 3 head coaches for that team?
Right, and
2016.
several quarterbacks. There you go. See, he's been there a long time. He's been there longer than Brandon Beane has been in charge of the Buffalo Bills. And Brett Veach, his tenure has gone longer than both Brandon Beane and Brett Veach in Kansas City, which is remarkable, right? And you wonder, okay, well, what is the plan there? And then you have the owner who's kind of been accused of a little bit of, it's more about the flash and the glimmer in Miami than it is about winning games, which could very well be true. I ran across a tweet yesterday I want to read to you, and I think this really sums it up well, Joe, okay? Mm-hmm. This is from somebody named Chris Kaufman, who hosts a podcast called 3 Yards Per Carry, and it's an independent Miami Dolphins podcast, okay?
An independent, a Dolphins podcast called 3 Yards Per Carry, huh? You don't say.
Yeah, exactly.
Interesting.
So Chris Kaufman wrote, and I like this. I actually, when I saw it, because he had quote tweeted something about it, or he had replied under the Jonnu Smith thing, so that's how I saw it. But anyway, I started reading his timeline. I'm like, you know what? This guy kind of has a handle on it. And I thought he put it pretty well. Here's what he wrote. He said, with Miami underspending the cap in cash terms by $40 to $44 million this year, in cash, I guess, cash to cap, you can argue they're tanking, but I don't think that's correct. He said, but let's not lie to each other. He said they're sacrificing wins for future cap flexibility. That's something that happens every year. Every time you have an opportunity to take out some debt for a player that you know will help you win, and you don't do it for the sake of prudence, being, just kind of managing your cap, that is exactly what you're doing. You're taking wins off the table in favor of future flexibility. It's all to a matter of degree. He said that doesn't mean 2, 3, 4, 5 wins is the base projection or a desirable outcome. They expect to win while deleveraging. It's the equivalent of a soft landing for the Fed. But anyway, what he's saying is kind of that to me. He's saying they're middling it. They know they're probably not going to be as good as they can be by doing this, but they're not outright trying to be really bad. And I just think that that's a weird spot to be in.
It's a very weird spot to be in. And how likely would they think that is to work?
Right. They have Tua, and again, we can have our debate, and of course it's easy for Bills fans to go, haha, Tua, he stinks. Tua's not a bad quarterback. When he's healthy, he has good numbers, right? He's not in the tier of the top quarterbacks in the league, but you're not putting him back there and saying we're trying to lose if you have Tua as your quarterback, right? That's just not happening.
That's right. But that's where paying him, and I thought getting stuck with him is not how they would want it to put, but that's how I would put it. I believe they are stuck with him because he is good, but he is not good enough to elevate the team around you when you have to start making the decisions that they're currently making, which is, well, we're paying our quarterback $50 million a year now. So, we 3 years ago when he was on a rookie deal, we could trade for Bradley Chubb, and we could trade for Tyreek Hill, and we could trade for Jalen Ramsey, and we could build all this stuff around him with these high-priced veterans. But now that the quarterback has been paid, you can't do all of that. In fact, you have to tear some of it down, and you have to eat some dead cap, and you have to move on from good players maybe when they could still help you on the field. Think of where you're going to be as a team when you had all those guys around the quarterback. You still couldn't. I mean, they could make the playoffs, but they weren't good enough to win a playoff game. They weren't good enough to beat any good team on the road. Late in the season, when the temperature dips below 40 degrees and it becomes a little bit more physical of a game, they looked like they didn't belong on the field with whoever they were out there with. And that's when they had all those guys. So now they're going to try to do that with less talent? I don't know. I mean, I guess what are you supposed to do? This is why Tua, as your quarterback and being as good as he is, makes it tough. Because Sal, feel like they're just going in a circle. They had Ryan Tannehill for 8 years, and he was pretty good, and maybe Tua's a little bit better than Tannehill was, but I felt the same thing about them then, that you got a guy who's pretty good. He's just good enough to where you don't want to move on from him because you could do worse, but he's not good enough to ever get you where you want to go, and I think they're just kind of doing the same thing over again.
We had here in Buffalo quarterback purgatory, right, which is you're never bad enough to get the top guy. You're never good at the guy you have. You're never good enough to have the guy where you kind of can, rely on to carry your team. That kind of thing. They don't have quarterback purgatory. They've kind of franchise purgatory because of this, right? Because they have this quarterback who's good enough to put back there and win some games and put up good numbers with the receiving core he has, they're going to win some games, and they're always going to be right there. But they're also never going to be able to, as you say, and I agree with you, he's not able to necessarily elevate everybody around him. I also think, I don't want to say Tua's a system quarterback. I know it's easy to say. I do think, though, that he is so much better in this system than he would be in a lot of others. I think you could put him in other systems and he'd be okay. But, man, he is the perfect fit for Mike McDaniel's system. And we have seen that, Joe. When he is not playing, they are a terrible football team when somebody else has to go in. He's the guy that, you put in that system, and he does a lot. He can make it work. Armando Salguero, who's our buddy's been on WGR quite a bit, he actually had a really interesting tweet. He's been hammering Tyreek Hill this offseason, in the Dolphins handling of him and why why is he on the team basically? What is this guy doing on the team? He quote tweeted Schefter yesterday, and Salguero's tweet was, so the Dolphins have been exploring trading all their good players this offseason, except, the one who quit on their team in the 24 season finale, is what he wrote.
Which he did. And then, by the way, said after the game that he was basically done with the team.
Yes. And now he's saying he's going to go for 2,000 yards. And I'm going to be real with you guys. I wasn't doing the things I was supposed to last year. Something like that I saw. Then he had that stream talking about Bills fans. I don't know. I just think that Tyreek's a little bit all over the place.
The cop showed up at his house 2 weeks ago because of something, because that happens three times a year with him.
Right.
It is wild.
To go a step further, this Chris Kaufman that I referenced a little while ago, who does the Miami Dolphins podcast, he said about Tyreek, no team that will take Tyreek Hill's $28 million cash obligation for 25, no team will do that. After quitting a game, demanding a trade, having 2 wrist surgeries, and more police trouble. He's a 31-year-old speed merchant coming off a down year. Miami would have to pay a team to take him. That's what this podcaster wrote.
He might be right, but is he right? Do you think he's right on that? They couldn't find a team that would be interested in Tyreek Hill?
No, I don't think that's right, but I do think that you are talking about a way, way different set of circumstances with his money compared to maybe somebody else with not all of that, right?
Right.
You got a team to take DK Metcalf, right? The Pittsburgh Steelers, they traded for DK Metcalf.
Yeah.
Because he doesn't come with all of that. Even he might be high priced. You give him an extension. I can't remember how it went. Did he get the extension after he went to Pittsburgh? Is that how it went? Or is he
did.
Still...
I think it was after he signed.
Okay.
Yeah.
Right, that.
I'm pretty sure.
Okay, we can do that. Tyreek, you look at that number. I don't think the player, if you offered Tyreek Hill to teams, they'd be like, okay, I'll take the guy, and you know what? We'll deal with some of the issues and troubles or whatever off the field, we'll get him in our organization, we'll protect him, surround him, have him ingrained in our culture. But I can't give up assets and that money for all of that also that goes along with it.
Listen, I don't know how much I buy that from that argument that the Dolphins couldn't figure. I mean, last year the Bills traded Stephon Diggs and ate more dead cap than the Dolphins would have to eat right now by trading Hill. If they traded Hill post June 1, which by the way is coming up in like 2 days, so everything's going to be post June 1, it would be a $12 million dead cap this year and a $15 million dead cap next year. I mean, we see dead caps eaten around the league that are 5 times that much now. So I think from Miami's perspective, if they really wanted to do it, they could. It's finding a team that wants to give him the it's a $10 million base salary this year. I guess next year is the deal. I don't know how you can massage next season. He's got $29 million of base salary next year. Are you able to work around that? Maybe you're not. And maybe that is the thing I'm missing that's different between him and Diggs.
I was very, very, and I'm surprised he's still on the team. I thought last year, middle of the season, okay, he's done after this year. There's no way that they're keeping him around next year. They had massaged his contract and changed it a little bit the year before that, so you knew it was there. I'm, as I sit here today, I'm surprised right now. So if they traded him right now, they'd take a $12.7 million cap hit. But they would save $15 million if they traded him right now.
Right.
Versus what he's making on the cap, you would divide that up and say, okay, 15 of it we're still going to account for, but 12 of it is gone because his cap hit right now is $27+ million.
And there's no way he's going to be on the team next year because his cap hit next year is $51 million.
Yeah, no way.
$51 million. I mean, you might as well say it's a void year, right? They would save $36 million by cutting him next year. So it is right. He's the one they're standing behind. When also, by the way, I'm loving this segment, just dunking on the Dolphins because I don't know what they're doing, and I love it though. If you are a Bills fan thinking about your threats in the division, there's nothing Miami has done in the last 6 months that has made you worried about them at all. You weren't worried about them in the first place. The Bills dunk on them every time they play, and now, okay, well, we're going to take our best corner and our best tight end off the team, too. Sweet, go ahead, whatever. There have been stories and reports about culture problems there, right? Guys showing up late to meetings and skipping practices when maybe they shouldn't be or, whatever. There have been stories told about that kind of stuff under Mike McDaniel in Miami. I love Mike McDaniel as an offensive play caller and the idea of him as a coach, but this could be, it could be a lot of the players too, but it could be something that is a shortcoming of his. How is Tyreek Hill staying around good for any of that? Maybe getting rid of Jalen Ramsey, maybe there's an element of that. Maybe there's an element of, we need our locker room to be a little bit different next year. So when I remember when Ramsey was first getting talked about as a trade candidate, I remember thinking that this could be more than just the player and the age. It could be more about the questions of their culture. But if that were true, if you really were trying to improve that or thinking, let's see what the Jets are doing. We might not be good this year, but we got to turn this thing around. We got to be a professional organization. If you're trying to do that, you don't keep Tyreek Hill on your roster.
Agreed. And listen, we had this discussion in the first hour and yesterday about the state income tax in Florida. And, oh, my God, you should be able to get all these players there. Well, guess what? Maybe players love it in the state income tax. And it's too laissez-faire. It's too relaxed. It's too, I'm going down there. It's not about football. What do you hear from players who sign with the Bills a lot? I love being here because it's all about football, right? They do say that, right? It's not like the nightlife. You're not going out all the time and all these big parties and clubs because, there's less to do. And that's not a shot. They say, hey, it's really good here that we're able to do that. Maybe some players, they're not built for that. They want to be in the bigger city. That's fine. But I do think there's some part of that that goes along with everything we talked about earlier and the no state income tax and, how Florida plays into it. You know what else plays into it is having a lot of options and saying it's not about football as much and everything else in life kind of gets away from it. But to your point, too, about Tyreek Hill and standing behind him, yeah, for sure. If I'm on that team and what he did last year and he quit in that final game, and then you're standing behind him and he's the guy you're going to keep on this roster when other guys are going, I'm like, wait a minute, what are we about here? What message are we sending? And I'll even give you another part of that. They fired their wide receivers coach, Wes Welker, basically, from what I was told, partly because of what was happening in that wide receiver room. So they basically said, no, it's not Tyreek Hill, it's the wide receivers coach.
So how do you think it's going to go? How do you think it's going to go? Like this season and beyond, do you think this is going to be a steady decline for them? Could it implode? Are they going to be better than we're sounding right now because the quarterback is still pretty good? Like, how do you think it goes for them?
I think they are about a 500 team, and they'll fight for the 7th playoff spot. We'll see. And obviously, if Tua misses games, that would go more south. He's got to stay healthy. If Tua stays healthy all year, I think they're about a 500 team. Maybe they get 9 wins. Maybe they squeeze out 10. Maybe they get to that 7th spot. But I think that's about their ceiling. But I do think the Patriots right now, to me, are. I don't know if I would say they are. I've been saying they're the second best team in the division. I think they have the second best outlook overall. But has it happened this year? I'm not totally sure.
Yeah.
Because their roster isn't quite there yet, but I like their quarterback. So I do think the Patriots and Dolphins have kind of a nice claim to being the second team behind the Bills.
Well, they play in week 2 in Miami.
Yep.
So that could be a good test. By the way, your comment about Tua, I mean, he has stayed healthy once in 5 seasons. In 4 of the 5 years, he's missed at least 4 games. And if he does that again, do you know who their backup quarterback is now?
Oh, their backup quarterback, yeah. Well, it's not. I did know this. Now I forget. Who is it? It's somebody we know very well.
Yes.
They signed somebody who. It's not Tyrod.
It's not Tyrod. Tyrod is still in New York.
Right. It's somebody play for the Bills or no?
No. It is somebody, though, that has beaten the Bills twice.
Oh. Somebody who's beaten the Bills twice.
Yes.
Ooh.
I was going to say Tyler Huntley, but I don't think that's right.
It's not Tyler Huntley. I don't even think Tyler Huntley's played the Bills. This guy's beaten the Bills twice, and it's almost embarrassing that he's beaten the Bills twice.
Oh, Zach Wilson.
Zach Wilson is the answer. How do you think it's going to go with Zach Wilson in that offense if he has to play? Yeah, maybe better. Maybe better.
They hired Bobby Slowick, by the way, for their passing game, as a passing game coordinator.
Okay, Texans offensive coordinator from the last couple of years.
Yeah, I think he's coming in to help their passing game or whatever. But
yeah,
they don't operate like a team that is necessarily trying to lose, but they also aren't operating like a team that believes that they can, win a division championship and contend for a conference.
Yep, I think they're a 500 team for the next 3 years. So. Or even maybe a little bit worse than that.